Hello, welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall. I'm Eileen Dowse, Chair Emeritus and Director of Assessments for the International Institute of Facilitation, INIFAC. And oh, am I excited today? I'm joined by Sasi Kumar, who is a Certified Master Learning Facilitator. He's also a coach, and he's the Chief Operating Officer for Focus Adventure. And today we are going to untangle all that spaghetti on the wall and talk about debriefing and activity. So welcome, Sasi.
Hi, welcome. Thank you very much, Eileen, for having me here.
Of course. And one of the reasons why I wanted you to be here is you have this long history with the adventure component of doing team building and then doing that debriefing of the
Yeah,
activity. And I always think about debriefing as this, it's very systematic. It just doesn't
yeah,
occur. It's systematic and it's this introspective to what's going on. So let's get introspective on debriefing activities.
sure. Sounds good. Yeah,
So talk to me about what for you, what is debriefing an activity?
sure. So it's interesting that you mentioned about it being systematic as well. And that's something that I always talk about, that a debrief session has to be something that you plan for. There is a desired outcome that you know you're looking for, but when the session happens, it shouldn't sound systematic. It should sound more like a conversation that you're having
Yeah.
that's fluid, you know, and it's just going on and people are learning through the experience that's taking place itself. So that's something that, you know, I feel is important.
And that's a challenge, right? Because different learners learn differently. So when we talk about systematic, there's always the plan and then there's
Mhm.
reality. So
Yes.
talk to me how you balance that one out.
So, of course, you still need to plan. I mean, as facilitators, that's important, right? You need to know your design outcome because then keeping the end in mind, you will then know what are the activities that you can do, especially from where I come from. We run experiential learning programs. We will know what to tailor, make for that exercise to bring out that learning outcome as well.
Yeah.
So that specific learning that needs to come out, we still want to talk about it as a form of a landing question. But as the activity goes, sometimes you tend to see certain behaviors that's coming up, and that's when we want to, like use that opportunity to talk about it as well.
Uh-huh.
And as facilitators, our role is to share observation. So we become like the mirrors
Yeah.
in which we want to say, this is what I saw as you were doing this, and what did it mean at that point in time for you? And we want to create some aha moments because a lot of times what happens is people don't realize certain behaviors that they are showing out when the activity is happening and when they are fully immersed in that situation itself. So we pick it up, cherry pick it, we share it out, we observe, and then we get to talk about it as well. So those are some things that we tend to put together.
Yeah, you got my brain thinking, Saucy, when you mentioned that it's the facilitators holding up the mirror.
Mm.
What if the facilitator's observation is wrong? What if you don't have a great facilitator and they debrief something
Yeah.
incorrect, or and you and I both know that can cause damage to the group, and I am
Yes.
very ethical about caring for the group.
Yeah.
What something that a facilitator might want to be aware of so they don't get it wrong?
So I think very importantly is the idea of being neutral, because
Yeah.
a lot of times what happens is that we do have our own thought models, right, that tends to go in regards to why the certain behaviors happens, and therefore we start to structure them accordingly, and we give the observations based on that. But I think that it's key and it's important for us to lay out these behaviors just like a mirror, like how it's actually shown. So not
Yeah.
adding any emotions into it, facial expressions and things like that, but saying it as it is and asking them what do they think about it. So I'm not saying that it's wrong or it's right, but we're just putting up saying that this is what I saw. What is the
Yeah.
team's, what do you think about this
Yeah.
itself? So
I was going to say, as I was asking the question,
yeah,
not being neutral, I was thinking, okay, how would I answer this? And my answer would be, you need to ask really good questions.
yeah,
So you can certainly have an observation.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, hey, Eileen, I noticed you were really, quiet or non-involved. Yeah, that's what I noticed, Eileen. That's not really a debrief.
And then what? Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Correct.
what? Then
Yeah.
that outcome is, how can you help Eileen learn?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that we want to do is not just share on the observation itself, but we want them to rethink about that. So I put it out and tell them that this is what I'm seeing. Is there any learnings in that? Is there any reasons for that to happen as well? So as facilitators, we want to wear the curiosity hat as well. To be able to find a little bit more and to ask a bit more as well. Again, being neutral, not having our own thoughts to affect us as well, because we would have done this too many times and we know that, they're doing this because of this reason.
Yeah.
But putting all that aside and telling ourselves that, no, there could be something else. And I want to be curious enough to find out, because we always want to talk about actions versus intentions, and that the intentions is where during exercise, during debriefs, we want to bring up, because it's those behaviors that we want to talk about.
Yeah. As a fellow facilitator, one of the things that I'm conscious about is activities can certainly raise the energy in the group, right? They're fun, right?
Yeah.
And people are laughing, and there's this lovely energy. And then sometimes, and this is what I'm always conscious about, the debrief session can be such a downer, especially if you do like prisoner dilemma and you show that, man, you've got like someone being not trustworthy or whatever. And it's like, I feel bad now that I participated this way. I can learn from it, but whoa, what a downer. What can facilitators do to manage that, that next level of energy in the group?
So one of the things that I tend to do personally is I wouldn't want to pick up that behavior from a person personally, to say that, this is what I saw, and and of course on a very negative manner itself, right? But it will be more of something from a very team behavior base itself. This is what the team is doing. What are your thoughts on that? So getting it from that level, you're putting them out of that, this is me, and therefore the barriers will start to come up.
Yeah.
But rather from a team perspective itself, and then get them to go and talk about it and discuss. And number two, rightfully you picked up, which is that different people have different learning styles, right?
Yeah.
So because of that, you really need to know your audience, who are the people you have, especially when you realize that when it comes to the activity, they are high energy, and when it comes to debriefing, they start to drop. Sometimes it could mean that they don't really like to speak a lot, they are more action-oriented. So in those cases, what I tend to do is to have debriefs that are more action. That means to say that we get them to move, whether I'm going to do like a linear scale, get them to stand, in different locations itself. So rather than sitting in a circle and just sharing, because not everybody might be comfortable with that. So we get them to move around. So that's another way that you could do it.
Yeah, thank you. And one thing that we didn't talk about is our two different locations. I'm in the United States and you're in Singapore. And I also think that there is a cultural difference to debriefing, right?
Yeah.
My experience, my North American experience working with folks in the Asia Pacific area is, and you kind of alluded to this, don't single out somebody. That is culturally incorrect. Yeah.
Yes.
In North America, it varies, so it's not one size fits all for any culture. But I think that you made just a really valuable point, is be conscious that you don't say, Sasi, you were a real jerk. It's like, what happened? Like, what's going on? And I've had people in activities say, yeah, I was a jerk because it was getting boring, so I thought I'd spice it up. And I'm like, seriously?
Yeah. So over here, I mean, of course, in this part of the region, I'll see the Asian side of things, right? You've got the group of people who are not, they are not the first ones to share out their pointers and things like that. And then, of course, you've got the other extreme end of the Asians where they're going to be speaking a lot, and you need to know how to stop them and find that point to drive them back and things like that. And imagine having the both groups in the same room itself. So that's one of the things that we deal with over here. But predominantly, it's about not focusing on them, because here there's a lot of they grew up with a lot of judgment, and people bring up through that, right, the grading systems and things like that. So since they've been brought up through that, they're really scared about being judged once again. So when we want to create a psychologically safe space, we need to ensure that they know that no one is being judged over here, including even if there was a negative behavior by any chance, it's not being judged. We just want to talk about what does this do to the team, and how can we then, learn from this as a team. And that's what we usually.
Right, staying focused on that end goal. Sometimes what I do is I'll have, after an activity, after the debrief, I ask everyone to stand up and just shake it off. That was intended for learning. It's not good or bad. It's intended for learning, and you get the learning out of it.
So Eileen, you brought this up, and just it got me into one of my memories actually. So we tend to do this activity in which it's about building trust. So what happens is, during that activity, they would think that there's a saboteur in the team. So this person will be, put aside. They'll be like, no, you're the one who is, sabotaging the team. So therefore, do not get involved in what we are doing. They'll get them to go and face the wall, all these kind of things. And then later on, when they find out that actually there was no saboteur in the team, so the person that they were saying actually was doing an honest mistake itself.
Yeah.
So, at that moment, it would really feel like, wow, it really, that person that was hit, right? Because they were really trying to tell that I'm not a saboteur.
Yeah.
So at that moment, the energy would really drop.
Yeah.
And one of the things we tend to do, just to end it off, especially after the debrief is done, we'll just tell them to look at each other and quickly say sorry to that person that you were blaming very quickly itself.
Yeah.
So we end it with a high, we end it in a more comical sense itself, but very importantly, we close that loop, to make that person feel like, okay, fine, it was an activity that we did, and we just wanted to talk about the behavior that comes out, especially in a low trust environment. And that's what it feels like. There's no personal attacks. It wasn't on me, but it was on the fact that this is how the activity went. So that's what we wanted, most importantly.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important that if you don't do that, what can happen is that feeling can carry through the meeting. And it can always be, oh, there goes Sasi again. He's playing that role again. And it's like, no, that was before.
Yeah. But I also want to share that there has been moments, right, that when I did activities that, it happens, right? People are going to go, oh yeah, he's going to do this and things like that. And that's when I moved away from my desired outcome. We got them together and we decided to talk about that at that moment, because I realized that this was a behavior that was happening back in the organization, and people were just not happy about it, but nobody was talking about it. Everybody just moving on. Frustrations was inside, but they saw it happening again, and it just became a comment itself. And when we sat down, we create that safe space, and the person that they were frustrated with didn't even know that the behavior he had was something that people were not happy with. So it was a great learning for everyone, and they realized that, oh, I should have actually just went to you and spoke to you about it, and that would have cleared a lot of air. And it took them 8 months, to basically get this out of their minds. Exactly. So much could have been done in terms of being effective as a team. But yeah, it is what it is.
Wow. And Sasi, I'm wondering if anybody's watching this and they're like, wait a second, you said debriefing was systematic, and then all of a sudden Sasi's like, well, I realized, or my intuition, or my gut, or my observation, how is that systematic? There's no system there. It just popped up. So I think that it's systematic and pop up, yeah?
Yeah. So actually it's interesting, because when we plan for sessions, we plan for every type of sessions. So we plan for the worst case scenario and the too good case scenario as well, because there'll definitely be someone who is, going to be getting frustrated. How do you then react at that moment? And there's going to be moments where everybody is going to go, we are all happy, this is how it's going to be done. And we still have to debrief that, right? We need to get them back on track itself. So how do we then do that? So in Tuckman model, Bruce Tuckman's team development model, he would have said that there are 5 stages, right? We've got the forming, storming, norming, performing, and of course the journeying itself.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when people say that, oh yeah, this is how we do things, we work very well together, we're close and things like that. So I tend to ask them this question. So has the team ever had any conflicts before? And if the answer comes back no, then you know that something is wrong somewhere. That means they've never stormed before. And that's when I would tend to go a bit deeper and talk about it itself. But all this was planned ahead. So it is systematic, but depending on what is the plan that we are putting ahead at that point in time.
Thank you. Do you have any, if you're willing to share your wisdom, what debrief techniques do you have?
So I do a couple of debrief techniques actually to keep things simple, straightforward, and easy for recollection. I tend to use this thing called the traffic light. So it's basically, in traffic lights, you've got 3 colors, right? You've got the red, which means stop. And you've got the amber, which means, get ready to stop, right? And then you've got green that says go. So the questions that are asked is green, what are the things that we want to continue doing? Amber, what do we want to change? And red is what do we want to stop? So there's a mental model of this traffic light, and we're able to use that as well. I also tend to use some other ways in which we use flip charts. We get them to draw things on a paper, and we do like a rich picture kind of concepts, because some people just love to draw, right? And through that drawing, it's so interesting, because sometimes you tend to share a lot more than what you thought you were going to share in the drawing itself. So you can really do a little bit more in that space. And finally, as I said earlier, we tend to do debriefs that are more movement based. So we get people to either do like sociometry, get them to go to different corners, or even in the form of a Likert scale. So these are some things that we tend to do.
Ooh, nice. I'm going to add a couple more. One, I love, if I have time, the ORID, O-R-I-D approach, the objective, reflective, interpretive, decisional, a set of 4 questions that taps into different parts of the brain, and that takes time. Sometimes we run out of time, even if it's at the end of the session. So sometimes I'll do one called pearls. Just give me your pearl of wisdom that you gained. A quick debrief. I think it's always important when you're planning a meeting to allow time for the debrief, and then again, reality happens, and you may not. And I think you've got to do something, right?
Yeah. And Eileen, if I could add, right, there's also one more type, which is more of the metaphoric debriefing itself. So you could even use your organs, right? You could say that, if it's a brain, what is it? If it's a heart, what is it? If it's the eyes, if it's the feet, and things like that. Because feet is like moving, right? So what are you going to do? Heart is like feeling, and brains are like thinking. Eyes are like, what do you see? So these are some of the things.
Ooh, don't mind if I grab that one from you. I haven't heard that one before. I like it.
Yes.
Sasi, what suggestions do you have for anyone who wants to increase or develop their skills as someone who's really good at debriefing, other than perhaps contacting you or in effect, what would be some things that they could do to develop these debriefing skills?
Yeah. I think, so whenever I've got facilitators who are newly coming in, when they start sessions with us, one of the things that they always say is, I'm really scared when it comes to the debrief, because I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what's going to happen and things like that. So I often tell them is that always start with the simple yet open-ended question, which is what can we learn from this activity itself? Just keep it simple, because through that, when they start to answer, that's when you can go deeper. You can, ask your why, tell me more, and that itself is good enough for a start for you to have a really good experience that you'll be able to bring out itself. And my mentor in Singapore, a couple of years back when I started, right, told me this thing. He said that if you are the one who is speaking in a debrief session, there's no learning. If the participants are the one who is speaking, then there's learning. So cut your conversation and ask more questions for them to be able to speak itself. So it's the whole 80-20 rule. Keep yours to 20%, keep theirs to 80%. So that's the second thing that I would share.
Yeah, and I want to add, just make sure that one person isn't doing the 80%.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So it's that team effort, right? You want to watch out for that as well. So, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Thank you, Sasi. This has been a delight. And I think, as I mentioned to you when I was having you on, I think sometimes we don't think enough about the importance of debriefing. And as I mentioned to you, sometimes I have people come up to me and they'll be like, well, I tried this activity, but it just didn't work and it didn't
Yeah,
have the same results. And it was because
yeah,
of the debrief.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting because you realize that you could debrief anything, any experience actually. You have a lunch with your friends, you could even debrief that, you know. So every experience is, you know, you could debrief it. And I run team building sessions here, and I'm quite particular about the words used, right? So I tend to use team bonding and building differently. And the biggest difference is the use of debrief. If you debrief it, it becomes a team building because there's elements for you to gain as a team, move up as a team as well, and progress.
Yeah. My husband's an engineer, and the poor soul, I'm debriefing our marriage all the time. And he's like, seriously? But you're right. You can debrief with
Yeah.
friends if there was a conflict. So the whole idea of debriefing is very important, including debriefing with children and
Oh,
colleagues. And
yes.
yeah, great.
Yeah.
Sasi, it has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.